Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Tunnel Vision, a show brought to you by USCFootball.com. I'm your host, Keely, joined by Shotgun Spratling and Ryan Abraham. Those chummy guys over there already. You guys have a shtick that you do every time I'm saying this intro. You look at each other, and it's you got it down. Yeah.
Okay.
We have a fun show for you guys today. Talking spring football. Football is back. It
Woohoo.
returns this week. We're definitely excited to cover some football. Even though there was a schedule change, we'll update you on that. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about, brace yourselves, basketball. Ryan has allowed it. We're going to talk about USC basketball. Shotgun and I covered the thrilling buzzer beater against UCLA. We'll talk about that, what it means for the future. USC gets a first round bye in the Pac-12 tournament too, so we'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about season expectations for USC. What are we looking at now that USC has a new defensive staff? What are we holding the Trojans to in 2020? As always, you can call us 512-4-TUNNEL. If you have questions, comments, concerns, you can call us. I believe there was a call already in before the show started and it got dropped. So caller, call back. We'll talk to you. You can also tweet at us, #TunnelVision. I'll put your tweet up on the screen. And y'all know the deal. Wherever you're watching, Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, put your comments, questions, concerns, and we will answer them. Guys, a fun show today. I know I say that every week, and Shotgun laughs at me, but it's true. It's fun.
It will be fun.
Anyway, but Ryan, I believe you have some people you want to give shout-outs.
We got a little shout-out stuff. That's great when you go around town and people see you and talk to you and I like the show, like Tunnel Vision or like Paris.
Basically, you're flexing that you're a celebrity.
No, it was just right. You want to give these guys a shout-out.
Okay,
So Brian, I was at Sharky's in Hermosa Beach on Saturday morning. I do a little volleyball coaching. We go into Sharky's to get some breakfast afterwards, maybe a mimosa or two. And once I ordered, I was standing next to him, unbeknownst to me. And then once I ordered, he recognized my voice. And he's like, "Hey, Ryan." I was like, "Hello." And so we just talked for a little while. But he was cool. He likes all the shows. So shout out to Brian. And I had lunch with Dave and his lovely wife Renee today. He had some old USC newspapers from the 70s. Wow. I think it was the Notre Dame. One of the Notre Dame games, and he wanted to give them to me. So we met for lunch today in Redondo. Got some we got some fish sandwiches, and so got to meet them and talk with them for a little bit. So it's always cool to meet the people and do that. So this is a great opportunity because we get to put ourselves out there, and then a lot of the fans, when they see us, they want to talk to us and stuff. So he actually said, I think Dave said he saw you at one of the. I think it was the baseball game, and he was like, "You look too busy," so he didn't want to come talk to you. But you could always come talk to us, especially Keely. Go talk to her all the time.
Sure. I'll say hi to y'all. That works.
Always come say hi. That's
yes, of course. I do. Someone saw me at the basketball game, and they kind of were like, "Wait, Keely? I wasn't sure because you're at basketball." And I was like, "Yes, it is me. I do basketball at times, yes." But as I mentioned, interesting change to USC's spring schedule. If you were planning to head out and watch USC's first spring practice on Tuesday, it has now been moved to Wednesday. So friendly reminder there, or bringing it to your attention if you had planned that. I believe it was because of the rain. It's supposed to rain for all week long, which the irony of it's been January and February and rain hasn't really happened, and then now spring ball is about to start and it's raining in Southern California. So did they say whether they're going to keep the Thursday schedule, so it'd be back-to-back Wednesday, Thursday, or...
Yeah, they tweeted out a new schedule. We put one in there too. I just made my own, but it's so it still looks like it's going to be.
You really did make your own.
I completely made it. It looks like a little spray paint.
Yeah, well done.
Just crossed out the 10 and put an 11 there. So it's going to be March 11th now instead. But from as of right now, they're going to do Wednesday, Thursday instead of Tuesday, Wednesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, and then Saturday practices, and then they take a week off. And then they get back to it, same thing, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, so that's the plan as of now. Let's see what happens with the weather and how that affects it. Because if they tear up the turf or something, they may you may see them at Cromwell versus being at Howard Jones. There might be some other alterations that are made just with the schedule. Because the thing is, they want to get 3 in by Saturday. It's the
Yeah.
acclimation period, so it doesn't really matter as much. It's more about putting in their practice plan and doing things kind of the right way, like establishing how they're going to go about the practice for the defensive coaches in particular. That I think that's the most important thing. So that's why you can move that day. It doesn't really matter. You come back to back. It's not like you're going out there and you just had a scrimmage and everybody's sore the next day and you try to come on a back to back like that. So because it's acclimation period, I think that makes that much more of a chance that they do that. But with the rain, like I said, they're going to try to be able to find a dry day just so they can be hands-on and say, okay, this is how we're going to go about this. This is this drill. This is, whatever they have to do as they're going to be able to kind of get everything set for when they do get some real practice in.
The only real issue could be a lot of players can load up on classes like Wednesday and Thursday afternoons because you don't normally have practice then. So we'll see if some of the players might be missing that first day of practice because of class schedule.
Yeah, that's a good point. Ryan, speaking of your celeb status, Brian on YouTube said, "Nice to meet you yesterday at Baja."
Oh,
Sparkies.
So that was Brian. Yeah, I told.
There you go.
We gave him a shout out already. So hey, thanks, Brian.
There you go. There you have it. We put in the title or in our little topics, spring camp preview. I feel like we've previewed it a lot, guys. But what are you expecting for this first week? I know it's the acclimation period, but Todd Orlando seemed pretty disinterested in that acclimation period. He kind of was like shoo-shooing it away. It didn't really fully count. And something we haven't actually brought up, Tuesday was the full day of coaches' interviews. It feels like a lifetime ago, but we haven't had a tunnel vision since that happened. What were your takeaways from that, and how does that maybe change what you're expecting this spring?
Yeah, that was kind of a mini tunnel vision. We did that. We ran it as a tunnel vision, promoted it as a tunnel vision show, but we didn't really talk about it. We did a really long podcast and stuff afterwards, so you can check that out. But that, to me, was one of the coolest things and one of the best things that USC Sports Information has done in years, probably, like making those guys available, 20 so minutes for everybody. And I don't think anyone had a bad showing. I think if you listen to that as a USC fan, you probably were fired up about each and every one of those guys. Even like a new guy like John David Baker, it seems like he knew what he was talking about. A guy like Dante Williams, the way he talked about recruiting. I mean, Todd Orlando and that passion there, Craig Niver and just the energy that he had. There was just so many good stories, and having special teams be completely, you're just feeling like it's going to have a completely different feel on special teams. I don't think you could have come away from that, even if you're the diehard anyone but Helton, it doesn't matter. Like, you still have to feel pretty good. Like, that's a pretty good staff that they put together. So I think it was a great thing that they did. And, you wonder why they haven't done it in the past, but this was hopefully they'll do more of that going forward because I think it was well received by the media and the fans. Yeah,
I've already told the sports information department, some of the people that work in there, that they should do that every spring or fall. If they need to do it 2 different days to get offense one day and defense the next day, because you just get to knock out so many questions, especially for new guys. It's the all the new guy questions. How did the job come about?
Yeah.
So then when we actually start spring practice, we can ask questions about particular players, and when they actually start putting the pads on and going, and what we are seeing at the practices, rather than spending time on those type of questions as well. So I think it puts a greater emphasis on the football itself, and I think that's what USC needs to do. And so you get that stuff out of the way. It's great for the media because you get an opportunity just to hear from them. Great for the fans to kind of be able to put the face, because unless you're following our sites, you don't necessarily know all these faces, like who is that coach or whatever, if you're coming out to a practice or something. So I think it was a great idea from USC, and it was well done. They even brought Krispy Kreme donuts, and Ryan abstained, which
I did not have a donut.
Dun, dun,
shocker.
I gave up sweets for Lent. It's killing me. Very tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a great thing. It was kind of like a media day that you would have at a Pac-12, the Pac-12 media day or something like that, where you cycle through all the coaches, and if you're a national media member, you get all the head coaches in a row and some players and stuff. So I thought it was a great idea, and it went really well.
Yeah.
Wait, real quick, Keely, on Periscope, we got David who wants to know, what's up with the tie, Shotgun? Lose the tie. Is Ryan making him wear a tie? No, I don't make him wear a tie. This is Shotgun. He does this stuff.
I was saying this kind of looks like he's just going to rob a bank in like the 1920s.
Yeah. He's got a Tommy gun.
Yeah, yeah. That's the vibe you're going for.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that I feel like lately I'm moving on. We've
He doesn't get to respond.
Sorry, it's the respond, Shotgun.
It's I wear a tie when I cover games, and so I was at the baseball game earlier.
Yeah. pretty much.
I don't make him do that. I was hitting golf balls. I'm dressed for golf, so
we've received a question about what you're wearing. So
yeah, I was hitting some golf balls. This is the old course. I got to play the old course over the summer, so it's a hat. So yeah, it's cool.
Nice.
Like Shotgun always has a unique hat, so this is kind of a unique hat for me.
Yeah, well done. Anyway, the criticism we get sometimes from, I guess, the Sunshine Pumpers is that we're too critical, and yet coming out of Tuesday's press conference, the criticism we got was we were too positive.
Yes.
It's like you can't do anything right in that sense. But I feel like you can't help but be positive hearing those guys, and until we see things that happen on the practice field, we can't be unnecessarily critical. We have to take them at their word. They sounded like they were sincere in what they were saying, and then we'll wait and see.
Exactly, and it's good if you're getting complaints from both sides because you're probably somewhere right where you should be.
True.
Here's the thing. Yes, I know the people that think Clay Helton's the worst coach in the world, that he should have been returned. We get that. We understand that. But if something good happens in the program, we're not going to ignore it because Clay Helton's still the head coach. That's what you want to think. That's fine. But if we get an interview with an assistant coach and like, wow, this guy's great. He seems awesome. We're going to tell you, hey, this guy's great. It seems awesome. And because that's what it seems like. We're not going to say, he seems awesome, but Clay Helton's still the head coach, so it doesn't matter. That's not what we're going to do. So you can do that. That's fine. But we will not be doing that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that there were several people that were in our Twitter mentions or on the live chats of the stream and saying, "I'll believe it when I see it." Too much talk. Words don't mean anything. Type thing. It's like this is all they can do right now.
Right. Yeah.
That was the point of it. The talk.
That's fine. I mean, that's if you want to say, hey, prove it. That's what we're not saying. They're going to be awesome. We're saying this is a good step in the direction. It seems like things it's leaning that way. We don't know. We got to go out in the practice field. If they still play two-hand touch or something, then they're going to like, okay, it didn't matter what they said.
Yeah.
So we're going to wait and watch and see too. But we're telling you, kind of leading up to it, it seems like there's some positive changes that were happening.
Mm-hmm. Someone asked me who I thought was the most impressive on Tuesday, and I couldn't really answer that.
That's tough,
right?
Everyone had different something brought something different to the table. There's a lot of candidates, I think you could say, for the best one.
Soto.
You liked him the most?
I'm surprised that that's your answer. Really? Why? What made him impressive in your mind?
Because he could break you in half. Is that why?
Yeah.
He's physically imposing himself.
He was imposing, yes.
No, I just think the way he talked about the defensive line and just some of the different things that he talked about and how he's pushing the kids, it came off really well. And I think that it's a group that already has talent, that already has experience. So he's coming into a group. Can he take that group to the next level? And that's kind of the big question. Yeah. And the things that he was talking about, are the type of things that can you generally take a talented group to the next level. It's that's it's similar to the USC baseball team. They struggled today. They were very bad today actually and lost to UCLA, but they're finally playing towards their potential, and it's still a little inconsistent. But it's because there's been a focus on the details. And I feel like that's a possibility with that defensive line group is, if it's very detail-oriented and stuff like, getting on Jay Tefele about his academics and being on, sending out group texts, every morning, he says that he does. So I think those small things can help maybe take that group to the next level. And if they can, I think that completely changes the defense. Because at the beginning of the season last year, the defensive line was playing really well. And, they kind of fell off towards the end of the year. I think that you got to figure out how to use those guys, those three big boys, how exactly to use them best and to be able to keep them fresh for the entire season.
Yeah. Well. And I think the main thing, Keely's point about what do you want to see, just the structure of practice, how different does it look? How different do special teams look? How different the defensive? We're not going to see tackling, but does it look like the drills are different on the defensive side of the football? Maybe on the offensive side of the football too. And formations for the defense, like what is the front going to look like? Is it going to be a bunch of different fronts when they call in, one Trojan or whatever it was? If you knew this was going to be a nickel package, but it might be something different now. So I think there's a lot of different kind of details about practice we're going to look for too.
Now, Hugh brings up a comment on Facebook, and he said, you all were pretty positive last year during practice, and we saw the results, so that's why we're a little jaded. What do you say to that?
I don't remember being super positive about stuff. This in the game, the mock game week usually is good. There's more physical, altercations and stuff. It's a lot going on.
Shouts to the 2018 mock game week. Nothing ever lived up to that.
But then it just kind of dropped off since then.
Yeah.
I mean, they were coming off 5-7. I don't think I was saying there's going to be some great, crazy turnaround. We thought that was positive what Graham Harrell was doing, and the offense was a lot better. So, I mean, I don't think we were coming like, wow, Clancy Pendergast looks like the defense is going to be so much better. I mean, I think we talked positively about the offensive changes because you went from like 3 cooks in the kitchen to 1 guy just running everything, and we thought that would be better, and it was a lot better.
And I still had plenty of questions about the offensive line going into last year as well. And I think
you harped on that the whole time.
Yeah, so I think that's also what we're going to be watching a lot on the offensive side this year as well. I mean, everything else comes back. It's going to be about that offensive line, figuring out. I thought it was interesting that Graham Harrell said that they want to find the best 5 players, and then they'll line them up across. They'll figure out where to put them. So there's 2 different philosophies with that. You can either we got to find specific guys for specific positions, or we go with our 5 best, and then we'll shuffle it around until we figure out what works well together. So that's the idea that they're going to go with. That I think that plays well for one guy in particular, and that's Justin Dedich.
Yeah.
Because he's a guy. The center position is one where you get pigeonholed there, and if you're behind somebody good, you're not getting in the game. But if you want a true 5 best on the line, he's got a great chance to jump in that mix and maybe play some guard.
They're showing a lot of videos of him like just lifting tons of weights on his squats and stuff. So I don't think they'd be showing that as much as they do. I mean, I guess he's doing really well, but you kind of feel he's going to be in the mix for things.
At least get some solid reps, especially Elijah Vera Tucker at that left tackle position. I feel like that's almost a guarantee to see him get a solid amount of reps there as well, given what Graham Harrell said. I think I'm actually going to jump into calls if we're okay with that. We have a full queue right now, and they seem to be
You're the boss, Keely, whatever you want to do.
Let's go to our first caller on the line. Hello, you're live on Tunnel Vision.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Oh, good. Well, I had a question, of course. Question's probably been asked every year. I still don't have a good answer. Why they don't put the names on the uniforms so people can follow them. If their favorite player is always the guard. Oh, what number was that? Who made that play? You can't tell without a name on it. Why do they refuse to listen to any of the viewers?
Thanks for the call. Thank you. We need to queue up Fiddler on the Roof and go, tradition. It's tradition. That's why. They don't do that. You should know the numbers by now.
Yeah.
Well, some of the numbers are changing.
They are. Well,
Speaking of which, well done, Mr. Gunn.
But it's tradition. So there's only a couple schools that was it. Penn State doesn't either. I think
they do as well.
Yeah, it's just it's been a tradition. And I think if you put names on the back of the jerseys, there would be outrage. You change the color of the socks and people are going nuts.
People get.
You put names on the jerseys. Yeah.
People get crazy about the socks.
But that's interesting. I mean, our caller sounded like, he was an older gentleman. Usually people that have been fans for a long time, they do like the tradition about stuff. So that's interesting that he would be someone that wants to put the names on the jersey. Usually it's the younger generation that wants that.
And the best part, if you're a fan, you get a 14 jersey or for Sam Darnold, in a couple years it might be someone else, that you can be like, recyclable jerseys to an extent. There,
it's cost effective. Speaking of number changes, Shotgun, let's go.
Though you have to say, like, if you get a number 7 for Matt Barkley, you have to tell people no, I got this for Barkley instead of Marvell Tell.
That's true. Or you can be a fan of both, whatever works. Third time's the charm. Number changes. All of these kind of make sense in my head, except the one that's going to get hard for me is JT Daniels taking Jack Sears' former 10. That's the one that's going to...
Because you're used to seeing number 10 doing stuff on the field at the quarterback spot, and it's not JT Daniels.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see that. But Munir McClain takes number 2. Max Williams goes to 4. Brim McCoy takes that 4 number. Like we said, JT Daniels gets a 10. Raylan Goforth is 10 as well. And Jude Wolfe moving over to 18, taking JT Daniels' old number. So a little shake up there.
And the interesting thing to me is that he wore 18 in high school. JT Daniels did.
Yeah.
And then he wore it here. So maybe it's just he wants a fresh start with a new number, coming off the knee injury. A little bit of news. I talked to JT Daniels over the weekend.
Okay.
And he's going to be able to do a good amount of work actually this spring, he believes. So
Wow.
he's not going to be able to. He's
Interesting.
still not going to be able to do running and full sprints or anything like that. But a lot of the drop back work he should be able to do. Obviously, they'll be monitoring it the entire way and making sure that there's no swelling or anything like that. But he believes he'll be able to be in there, make throws, and basically do everything up to 7-on-7. And if that's the case, I mean, that's a huge boost for him and the potential of there actually being a quarterback competition. Because I've said it several times about how I didn't expect him to be able to do anything until late in the summer, in the fall. And that was going to give Keaton Slovis that much of an advantage because he's going to have that extra time and reps. Now, if JT gets in there, it might actually turn into an actual quarterback competition when I didn't think there actually would be one.
Well, I'm going to stop you there and go to our next caller, who I believe has a question about JT Daniels. Hello, you're live on Tunnel Vision.
All right. Well, this is Brandon from Minnesota. So you just answered my question. Like, will there actually be a competition? Because I feel like replacing a All-American or a freshman All-American would be very poor decision, at least in the eyes of like the people who contribute money to USC. So I don't know.
Hey, Brandon, thanks. Yeah, so, I mean, I actually wrote a piece this weekend about, hey, could Keaton Slovis win the Heisman Trophy? And then I got a lot of pushback from people that were JT Daniels fans. Our assumption was that it's going to take a long time for him to recover from the knee injury. He might not be able to do stuff in the summer. We don't know how early in fall camp he'd be fully out there competing. And if that's the case, it's going to be really hard to take the place of a Keaton Slovis and beat him out. But if what JT Daniels is saying is true and he can actually do some work in the spring, that means he'll be around for, if he can do stuff in the summer when they're doing 7-on-7, that's a huge step up, full bore into fall camp. Then I think there can be a competition because Graham Harrell did say there would be one. I was kind of going into the assumption they wouldn't. Completing 71.9% of his passes was a freshman, national record, right? And a Pac-12 record. I mean, he did some pretty amazing things as a true freshman. You're supposed to take some big steps forward as a sophomore. But, if JT Daniels can beat him out in practice, I think it's probably unlikely. But if he's healthier now in the spring, gets to do something, it will be more of a competition.
And let's not forget that JT Daniels was actually the starter last year.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he got beat out by Keaton Slovis. Obviously, the injury set him back. And Keaton Slovis made a lot of strides throughout the season and got better and better. So I think that, like you said, it's going to be hard for him to beat him out. But I think that the fact that he's going to be getting reps and you'll be able to see defense and do all the things that you want. Now, he's not going to be able to do scramble drills or full 11-on-11, but to be able to get reads and see how the plays progress and continue to be able to do stuff there, I think it's huge for him.
Yeah.
And again, I think I've said this previously on the show, but for him, I think, and I was kind of miffed that Jack Sears didn't stick it out and potentially be there if needed, which almost was needed for USC this season. But just to get those practice reps and continue to progress there, and then hey, you get your degree and you look for a graduate transfer opportunity. I thought that would make much more sense for Jack Sears. And I think JT Daniels, he goes into it, has a competition. Something happens to Keaton Slovis, he can step in. And if not, then he goes through the season. He's ready. He's got his degree. And he's ready to go to somewhere else and try to find a starting job elsewhere. So I think it's really big just to continue his development, though, as a quarterback, starting with the spring. And if he's able to get these reps that he believes he will be able to, I think that's huge for him.
Yep.
And the question we're getting now in the comments when we're talking about JT Daniels is the competition comment from Graham Harrell just an honor thing for JT, or do you really think that there is a chance that come the Alabama game, JT Daniels could be the starting quarterback?
I mean, I think there's a chance. It's just like we said. I think it's unlikely.
Yeah.
We know Graham Harrell loves him some Keaton Slovis, and Keaton Slovis performed. Despite there were some ups and downs, but he played really well. And Graham Harrell expects big things, big steps forward in year 2. So we'll watch. We'll see what they both look like if they're able to practice. We'll see a little bit of JT in the spring. Definitely over the summer when they're running stuff, and that you can show a lot of leadership over those summer workouts when it's just the players and there's no coaches. So if JT Daniels can be there, part of that, that's big. And then obviously being able to start fall camp full bore, if it's a full-on competition, those first 2 weeks, you want to try to win out that job. So I think there's a chance. It just seems unlikely at this point, barring some sort of injury.
And now I made this point on the Family Feud podcast.
Plug.
But you have to remember that he's a Mike Leach disciple. How many times has Mike Leach actually had a quarterback competition? It's often. I mean, he's pulled Luke Falk out of games and throws in Tyler Helinski. I mean, those type things, it's always a competition. So he comes from that tree. Expect that to be the case. So, initially when he said that in the pressers that we had, you listen to it and you go, yeah, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But then when I start thinking about it and go, Mike Leach is constantly has competition as well. So it lends me to believe that, if JT Daniels comes out and he's balling and Keaton's struggling for whatever reason, then I wouldn't be surprised if you do have an actual competition. And, it could be one of those things that actually is week to week. I mean, that's every other position. Every other position is a week to week.
To a certain extent.
Yeah.
I mean, you have older guys and you trust your older guys, and that's
But it's a good. I mean, Leach has done that though. Leach has benched guys that other coaches wouldn't. Like a guy that threw for 5,000 yards the year before and set records gets benched. Like Luke Falk. So things have happened. Graham Harrell's been around that, so we'll see if he's be willing to do that.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, let's jump into our next caller. I believe it is Dave from Iowa. Hello, you are live on Tunnel Vision.
Yes, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We can, Dave.
Awesome. So it's me, Dave from Iowa, as usual. I just got a question of why you guys turned down my option of possibly going for the guard out of LSU, considering that one, you guys always talked about the left guard, Elijah Vera Tucker moving out to the left tackle position, and then the fact of I remember about a month ago actually, someone had a question about the transfer portal. It's why are they in the portal? And Ryan, you said, for the guys that are in the portal, the guys who are at the big time programs like Bama and LSU, they most likely start for us. So I was just curious why you guys didn't agree with me.
Hey, Dave.
Dave, you
First of all, you're making us remember things. That's never a good idea.
He just sounds a little
yeah.
has an axe to
So I
grind
think
a little bit.
specifically, we'll see what they kind of do as far as the spring goes, as far as getting the left tackle out there. But if you're going to bring in a guard, I think it's like I said that a couple weeks ago or whatever it was, it's good for depth, but that's not really what they need right now. They need an established starting left tackle. You can move Elijah Vera Tucker, someone that that's been in your program and what he can do. I don't know if you want to bring in someone that's been a guard somewhere else and then say, hey, we're going to move you out the tackle, unless they've scouted him and they look and they feel that they can do that. It just seems like more of a long shot for something like that to happen to me.
I would agree with most of that.
Yeah.
Most of that.
Most of it.
Sorry, Dave. I hope that answered your question. But we accept
Dave. Most
all
suggestions
ideas.
we'll take most of your suggestions, Dave. They might. Who knows? They might do it. But I just think they were looking specifically for one position. It's a left tackle.
Yeah, I just think that they're not going to. You want to be able to see a guy's tape. If you're going into the transfer portal for a grad transfer, you're looking for a guy to come in and start. You would hope it's someone who's like Stevie T, who comes in and dominates. And that was kind of my knock on Drew Richmond last year during camp is that, if you come in as a grad transfer, I expect you to come in and be Stevie Tuikolovatu.
Yeah.
And be able to dominate from the beginning and take someone's spot over. I'm like, no, don't even try. This is my spot. Mm-hmm. So I think that if you're grabbing someone from the portal, you want to be able to see that tape and know that what you're getting, rather than bringing someone on and using a scholarship and then being like, well, we hope he can compete.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's go to Darren from Culver City, I believe. Hello, you are live on television.
Hi, my name is Darren from Culver City, and I just wanted to talk shotgun. So I wanted to say, one, I'm a huge fan of basketball, but not USC basketball, but yeah. And the other thing was that it just usually at the age, his name's Shotgun, right? But I was just thinking that he's more like a pistol because at the age of 23, people stop wearing their caps backwards, and yet this guy still wears it and then comes on with a tie. Man, so funny.
Hey, thanks. Good call there.
Oh,
thanks very much.
Well, for your information, Taylor Mace actually goes by Pistol because he said he's not as great as Shotgun.
Yeah.
So there you go. So you can talk to Taylor Mace about that.
Yeah.
There you go. Anyway, moving on. Shotgun, I know you're putting questions in the queue. Is there a question you would like to go to next?
Jasper always has some great questions, Jasper, but one of his questions was, which player who didn't play last season will make the biggest impact on the field in 2020? I think we should probably extend that because the easy answer is just Brew McCoy, I think.
Yeah.
But I think you should extend that to who didn't play much. And I think then you have some other options there potentially. And Justin Dedich is a guy that could be in there because I whoever gets that extra spot, and Andrew Voorhees is another one that you could consider. Guys that didn't play much last year, but could be starters this year on the offensive line. And because that's the biggest question mark for me going into the season with this team, those are the spots that I'm kind of looking at.
Yeah, I would put Voorhees probably at the top because it's almost certain that he's going to be starting now. As long as he's healthy. He was the starter last year, got injured, and was in there. A guy like Brew McCoy, there's a lot of other wide receivers out there, but he's going to get a significant run. Could be a guy like Solomon Tuilapupu. He could be in there and
still got to see him practice.
Yeah, we got to see him practice. But like someone like
yeah, we got a question about that too. Any updates on Solomon Tuilapupu?
I put a picture in there of him if you want.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, any updates on him? That's one of the things we have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Watch him practice.
He's a guy you definitely have to wait and see.
And like a couple of days in a row, not like we saw one good practice. We want to see a week of practices or so.
Things have sounded positive in his recovery from what we've been told, but don't know until you see it on the field.
Yeah. And then, what Shotgun said with the offensive line, it's people moving around. If it's Dedich, if it's like Jason Rodriguez playing left tackle, whatever it is, someone in that line is going to get significant run. And one or two of them probably didn't play a whole lot last year.
Let's go to a Facebook question from Leonard who said, would it be possible for USC to have a two-quarterback system?
The age-old saying is if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. And I'm a follower of that because the quarterback position is such a leadership spot that it's so hard to flip things over. And now some quarterbacks talk about, I got to get in a rhythm, when there's competitions and stuff. I'm not a huge believer in that. I think you just the game has to slow down. You have to be able to read things. It's more of that than, getting your arm and getting that kind of rhythm. So usually it doesn't work because bouncing in and out of the lineup, guys start looking over their shoulder. And I don't think I know USC won't do that because Clay Helton has said several times that he won't for that exact reason. He doesn't want quarterbacks looking over their shoulder. So because, each time they've had a competition, what would it take for this and, for so-and-so to get in? He's always said, no, I'm going to have complete faith in them. We'll reevaluate in between games or whatever, rather than people looking over their shoulder during a game.
Yeah.
We have a question from Marshall on YouTube who said it was kind of interesting. Do you think some guys might transfer out if the coaches, quote unquote, push them too hard in spring practice?
There's 6 new coaches. Whenever you have that kind of coaching turnover, there's always a chance that guys are going to transfer. I thought more people would have been transferring after last season. They haven't. Maybe some will wait till the spring. Maybe they won't transfer at all. But when you do get you got a new coordinator in special teams, you got a new coordinator on the defensive side of the football, a whole bunch of all new coaches on the defensive side. Some guys might have felt like they were next in line and they get bumped down a little bit. So, we'll see. We saw a guy like C.J. Pollard transfer out. You might see a few more though. It's just when you have that kind of coaching turnover, there's always an opportunity for guys to find a reason to transfer.
Yeah.
And I think it becomes, if you're an older guy and you start seeing the writing on the wall that you're not going to be a starter, those type things is when you see transfers after spring. Guys, they're like, my time is about to be up. I need to go somewhere and play if I want to get taped to potentially go to the NFL if they think that they're a pro prospect. So a lot of times that's what it is, more than necessarily them just being soft and they're getting pushed hard by the coaches. Is you got to look for opportunities, and if you're not getting it at USC, then you want to have the chance to play and get tape.
Yeah. We got a Periscope one.
Sure.
Mario.
Periscope love. Great job, Ryan.
Mario Fowler. Can the quarterback situation be like with the Bama situation 2 years ago when Tua took over for Hurts? I think this is a little bit different situation because we've seen both of these guys. There's a lot of experience. If you remember when USC played, when Hurts took over originally in 2016, there was a lot of inexperience there. I think this is just a little bit different because you've seen a year of JT Daniels, you've seen a year of Keaton Slovis. It's really just going to be about who's playing better at that point.
A lot of times when you have an elite freshman that you think is going to be really, really good, then this would have been the Max Brown, Sam Darnold situation for USC, is that you have a veteran, he goes out there and he gives you a great chance to win. You play well. That's the Jalen Hurts. And then you give you put a series or package in every game for the freshman to get his feet wet and start. And that's what happened with Tua.
Yeah.
He was playing a lot, playing in pretty much every game, getting a series or so. And Georgia was doing the same with Justin Fields and Jake Fromm. Obviously, that didn't work out for them. That goes back to the 2-quarterback system. If you're trying to throw a guy in there for a drive, and things aren't working out. Now, that one was more so that Fromm still had another year. Fields was ready to start, and obviously we saw how well he could do at Ohio State this season. But it comes to, if you do have a veteran guy, a senior, and then you have a freshman, that's how you want to play it. You want to get that guy ready so you don't just start a guy with no experience at all the next season. For USC, that's not really the case with JT and Keaton being technically the same grade now.
Yeah.
We have a question from Chris on YouTube who says, have you guys been able to get eyes on some players? And if so, have you seen any crazy body changes? Funnily enough, I felt like half of the football team was at the basketball game yesterday. Essentially, the whole staff was there, including Clay Helton, and then a big contingency of the team was there. Kobe Pepe looks much bigger, in my opinion, and I felt like Keaton Slovis actually looks a little bit bigger. But I was filming the game, but also they were like kind of near me, and I was like trying to do some like scouting while filming the game, so I was multitasking. But Shotgun, were you able to peep any players as well?
I mean, if you look at some of the videos and stuff they posted as well, Elijah Vera Tucker is a guy that he's just naturally big, but for some reason it seems like he is thicker in the shoulders to me. I could be completely making that up. The whole thing of like seeing a guy and like it usually takes someone to have put on 20 to 25 pounds for you to really go, ooh.
Yeah.
Or like completely lean down and they're just super toned. And just from glancing at guys when they're going through at a basketball game, it's not exactly when you see that, or at least for me. No one like caught my eye, and I was just like, oh my goodness, that looks like a complete. No one has Nico Fallon.
Right. That was
Yeah.
at Pro Day, where it was just like, who is that guy? Oh,
Yeah.
That's Nico. Oh.
Yeah.
I think Chris Hawkins did it too in that pro day. He looked pretty buff compared to what he was before. But yeah, Nico Fowler looked like a different human being. It didn't look like the same person.
I feel like you can only fully tell when they get the pads back on. Then you can kind of compare in your mind for how long you've seen them in that way. I don't know. Let's go to a question from Jasper Smith, who says, at running back, who will get the most carries in 2020?
Ooh, I'll go with Marquise Stepp.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go with Vi.
Yeah, I was about to say
Vi.
Vi. I think Vi.
He's just the guy they depend on. Is most dependable to the coaching staff because they feel like he can do all the different aspects of what they want from a running back, from blocking, catching standpoint. He's just a well-rounded, versatile guy. He's not the most explosive, not the biggest, not the guy that's going to pound you as much as Marquise Stepp. He's not going to shake you as much as Stephen Carr, but he just does a little bit of everything. He's well-rounded, and I think they really appreciate that aspect of his game.
We have a question from Mark who says, have you heard anything about if the media will be allowed back into practice during the season? That is when Clay usually tends to cut back on physicality.
Yeah, we don't know yet. They've opened things up for the spring, so that's a good step in the right direction. I think the new administration does like having the openness and the accountability. So we don't know. They haven't told us about the fall yet, but so we'll get through the spring and kind of figure it out. See what kind of access we've had. They really limited what we could see for summer workouts. So, if the administration, like the Pete Carroll days, they liked having media out at the summer workouts because what are our websites? We cater to people that follow recruiting. The recruits follow everything we do. When we put up a video of, if it was a Dory Jackson or back in the day, whoever, camps, whoever was making some great play.
Yeah, usually Dory.
Dory would make some great plays.
Yes.
That would be up there. We'd have a video of it, and the recruits that USC are recruiting, the prospects would be watching those kind of videos, and it was actually helpful for the recruiting effort. So blocking us out of that I think was an advantage that USC had on the recruiting side that they don't have anymore. Now that recruiting is falling off more, I think you want to try to get every advantage back you can get.
Also, we shoot highlights. Why would they not want to be able to actually watch the players? Because they're not allowed to watch the players work out. They're not allowed to watch players when there is a football involved, basically. So that's why they can do all their conditioning and running and stuff. They can't do anything with the football. So why would you not want to get your eyes on your players and see how they're doing? Okay, well, they're doing one-on-ones. If I'm Dante Williams, I want to see what these guys can do.
Sure,
why would
yeah.
It makes no sense.
It did help the coaches too. We know they would all watch our videos that we would put up there and stuff. And the fans loved seeing the pictures of like the new players coming in with the workout. So that was a great. I mean, that was probably my favorite part of covering the team. Like the summer stuff was really fun, and they've cut that back.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get a little more access this summer. We'll see.
We shall see.
We don't know yet.
We have a question from Jesse on Facebook. It's something that I've seen a lot. He said, "Why are we not hearing from Clay Helton? Why are the assistants, the AD, Coach Bone, the face of the program right now?"
Yeah, I got that one on Periscope too.
I got that one today at the baseball game.
Did you? Yeah.
My dad even asked me about it. It's just, I think they've learned that Clay Helton is not very popular right now because, listen, we would get a bajillion questions right now if Clay Helton was talking. Why is Clay Helton talking? We want to hear from the assistants. I think that they kind of know that it's not the most popular guy to put out there as far as the face of the program right now.
What they're trying to go with their best foot forward right now, and they like the assistants that they hired, so they're going to put them out there. Now, is that a good thing if you're the head coach and people would rather hear from your assistants than you? I mean, that's something that Clay can't fix until he wins, and you got to win games. Go out and beat Alabama. People will want to talk to you, and that's just kind of the way it is right now. So they're trying to show, there's some tarnish on the USC football brand, but there's some shiny spots, and they're trying to accent those shiny spots as opposed to showing the tarnish that everyone knows. So Clay Helton, it's going to take him a while to get back in the good graces of the fans, but it's only by winning. It's not by what you say or anything like that. He's just got to go out and beat teams like Alabama, Oregon, Notre Dame this year, and you do that, then you can win back people.
Mm-hmm.
It's really comes down to what do they get positive from it? If he's out there talking, what is good? What good comes from it for the USC program? Because even if he says all the right things, the assistant coach just said a lot of right things, and still people just say, "Well, talk is cheap."
Yeah.
Why don't you win on the field? So there's nothing positive going to come from it. So why put it out there? Because it's only going to bring negativity because everyone doesn't like it. It's the same thing when Bone just kind of disappeared from Twitter. Didn't have any original tweets for a long time because what was the use? What was the positivity going to? I mean, what good was it going to be for him to be out there and everyone just every single reply that he has, fire Helton, fire Helton, fire Helton.
Yep.
I mean, it didn't make any sense. So he just took a break. Now he's back on and has been tweeting.
Some positive things happened, and then he comes back. Yeah, there's positive things for him to say, not just.
So it's really just a PR strategy.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, some people think any news is good news, or any publicity is good publicity, but that's not necessarily the case.
No.
So if there's nothing positive going on, and it's not like there's a scandal going on that he needs to talk about. It's like, why is this guy not talking about this situation?
Yeah.
Right.
It's the off season. Things just aren't. There's nothing actually going on. He released each hiring, he released a statement about the coaches. So technically, he has said something about them. So I just don't think
he actually didn't say anything about other than Todd Orlando, which I thought was a little odd.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought he did put something in.
Only came out in the Orlando release.
Well, then I stand corrected on that.
Sorry about that.
You would like to hear him say something about the coaches, but he'll do all that on Wednesday or whatever day of the week that we'll get him this week. He'll talk about all the assistant coaches, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. We have a question from John on Facebook who says, any chance Keenan Christian could return punts/kickoffs if he can catch? Seems like you would want your fastest player returning kicks.
I mean, he was back there last year when Velus Jones got hurt at the end of the season, so I would say yes.
Yeah, and if you read Chris Trevino's 10 predictions for spring football, he put Gary Bryant Jr. is going to be I think he's the punt returner, right?
Chris Trevino is very high on Gary Bryant Jr., whereas Shotgun is still waiting and seeing on that front.
Yeah.
As far as a returner, yeah.
Ryan Fox now, and we got to talk about basketball a little bit, which I can't believe I'm saying that.
I'm sorry.
Ryan Fox wants to know, was Clay Helton booed at the basketball game? Did they put him up on the screen?
He was not booed. I got a tweet about that too.
I didn't pay attention, so I guess that tells me that
was he put up on the screen?
I was waiting. So what happened is that he was actually the first guy out of the coaches, and he shook the hands of the Trojan Knights and rang the victory bell a little bit. But they didn't introduce him yet. They introduced all the other coaches and a lot of cheers for Todd Orlando and the defensive staff. And then they're with head coach Clay Helton, and then kept talking. So I think they kind of just slid it in there pretty quick. But no boos. I didn't hear anything like that. I think the crowd was not hostile in that sense. And I think they were excited about the t-shirt toss that was happening at that point. So, but it wasn't like they led with Clay Helton and his assistants. They
were strategic about it. Not really giving the opportunity to have a space where you could boo for something like that.
Again, but think about that. they're actually contemplating these things first, which is a positive. How many times we've been like, why did they not just think of this beforehand?
Yeah.
I think that you have to give credit to the new staff that has come in, that they're actually taking a look at these small details.
Yeah.
And, just like I said before, small details, that's what takes a good team to a great team, or, elevates is attention to small details. And I think you're seeing it, at least from the athletic department itself, some stuff we did not see in the past. I mean, obviously, we've seen a lot of stuff we haven't seen in the past, but I think it's a lot of attention to details that is getting taken care of. So you got to at least think, as of right now, the athletic department seems to be heading in the right direction, much more so than it has been the last decade.
Yeah, no
Agreed.
question.
Donald has a weird question. He says, I would like to know the current height/weight for the three of you. I don't know why I'm entertaining this question, but we do it for players all the time, but we're not players. I'm 5'9".
You're not going to go weight?
And I'm redacted.
That's fine. That's no big deal. I'm 6'3". I might have shrunk a little because I'm getting older. But I'm about 188 right now.
I'm 6'2", and I'm 182 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
My weight fluctuates a lot, though. I go from 160 to 200.
Yeah, I was like 220-ish before, so like 188, 187 in that range is pretty good now. But I'm not – Shotgun, he's always low. He's always skinnier than me.
There you go, Donald. We're an open book. Kevin says, has the COVID, basically the coronavirus, COVID. I don't know if you I've only read it. I've never had to say it before, so there you go. The coronavirus implications impacted large group gatherings, specifically practice, any precautions. This is something that I was talking to Shotgun about last night, actually. What are they going to do with open practices, given that there are virus concerns?
I mean, there was 10,000 people at the basketball game, right? I didn't, I don't know. That's a lot worse and that's like in a building. This is not outside. I don't know. I think that would be worse.
So this conversation came up with Keely and I because I think it was the NHL has decided that they're
that's what we're talking about.
They're not going to open the locker rooms, not have an open locker room policy for media just because of concerns over it. And my thought was that eventually they'll just keep that because everyone wants to restrict access as much as they can. However, the Pac-12 issued a statement to, I think, John Cannizzaro about if the same thing would be going on in Las Vegas for the Pac-12 basketball tournament. And they said, as of right now, they do not plan to have any changes to their media policy and allowing the open locker room after games. So as of now, there's no changes. USC has not made any changes yet themselves. And I think it's a wait and see process here. A lot of people are really scared about this situation right now, and it's just everyone's trying to take the precautions that they can. But as of right now, the biggest issue is in Washington. That's where they've had some of the issues. So maybe Washington does some things different, but so they might be a program to just kind of keep an eye on and see if they kind of change anything, and then maybe some other schools would follow suit a little bit there. The one thing that has changed is USC and Stanford both have canceled kids going to class.
Wow.
So they're taking online classes for the next, I think it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this upcoming week, leading into their spring break.
Okay.
So if you're a student, now you don't have to physically go to class.
Yeah.
You could go to Las Vegas, support the basketball team.
Wait, so those players that practice on Wednesday, they won't really be missing class. They'd be missing they'd be missing an online class.
Right.
Could they have their phone and take the class while they're
while
practicing?
they're doing a rep? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I got a one-on-one.
They could actually be dressed out in the locker room and be on their computer until their class is over and they can run straight out.
True.
All right, this isn't because I really want to talk about basketball. This is because
we need to talk about
I want to get the show. I don't want the show to go for 2 hours. So
I know I
you
looked
guys
it up.
were both there.
We had a tunnel vision record last week
for our show.
Yeah, it was the longest show, which is pretty crazy.
Like the off season, off
season random show. Yeah,
a lot of questions. That's good.
Shottington, we were at the basketball game. If you haven't checked it out, Shotgun and I did instant analysis at a basketball game. Pretty exciting. So we can kind of rehash what we talked about. But USC locked in a first round bye at the Pac-12 tourney. What does this mean for this team, and where do you think they're going to go in the tournament?
Yeah, so they're locked in. They're the number 4 seed after the final results last night of the Oregon game. They officially were the number 4 seed. Getting a bye is huge for them. I mean, it's huge for any team. I think I told Keely in this analysis, I believe the number is there's only been one team, I believe, since they started this format of the tournament in 2011 to win the championship that played on that first day. I think there's only been 2 teams that even make the championship. So out of 16, 18 potential teams to make the championship game, over those years, there's only been 2 that have had to play that extra game on Wednesday. So I think it's really big for USC to get that bye. They're such an inconsistent team that it's easier for them to win 3 games than it is 4. Because they're how streaky they can be offensively. So I think that they getting the bye is huge for them. Now they get the 4 seed rather than the 3 because Oregon won last night, and that becomes significant because the first game that the 4 seed will get is the 5-12, which is Arizona versus Washington, both teams that have beat USC, whereas the 6-11 game is Stanford and Washington State, which are 2 teams that USC has defeated. So a little bit unfortunate for them there that they couldn't push up to the 3 seed and even avoid Oregon till the final, which is what you would ideally like to do. But they'll play at 2:30 on Wednesday or on Thursday, against the winner of Arizona and Washington. USC has beaten both of those teams as well.
Yeah.
But that's a much tougher draw, I think, than Washington State and Stanford on the other side. So we'll see how they play. They've got a great chance. I think they locked in a bid, the NCAA tournament bid, with their win over UCLA. I think that was enough to push them over the edge. I think, though, you get a win against potentially Arizona, a second win against them, I think that only boosts you because Arizona, when they beat them a couple weeks ago, they were ranked number 7 in the net. So, their metrics are really high. So I think that would help boost their resume even more, possibly move up a couple spots in the seeding for the NCAA tournament bracket. So it could be huge for them there. I mean, it was a great game yesterday. I don't know if you watched any of it, but dramatic finish. Jonah Matthews said, it was a dream situation. This is what he dreamed of, making a shot to beat your rival in the final second of the game, almost at the buzzer. And he had to go through some struggles in the game. He missed some free throws late, but he redeemed himself for sure.
Yeah, was there any, when you guys talked to him, was there any question? Because he just dribbled the ball up the court and then took the shot. There wasn't any pass. He just dribbled and shot and won the game.
So Andy Enfield, when he was asked about it, he said that they called a timeout before UCLA shot the go-ahead free throw. Try to ice the guy, but he said, I expected it to go in because they made pretty much everything else from the free throw line. And so he said, Jonah, we're going to live and die. We're going to live and die with you, Jonah. Put the ball in his senior hands. And what did Jonah say?
We're going to live tonight.
He said, we're going to live. We're going to live to celebrate.
Yeah.
And he proved himself to be true to his words. They basically were going to give the ball to him, give him a screen, and then let him decide if he was going to get trapped. He could look for a big O for a play, or to take the shot, or they wanted to switch on the big guy. And Jonah said in our interview with him or with Keely, that once I saw them switch, I was like, this guy can't guard me.
He was like, there's no way. And he also told me that specific shot he had practiced over and over again in the Galen Center by himself. And so he was like, it was muscle memory. Like, once I did it, I knew it was going in. So
he didn't need a 3. He only needed a 2, but he took the 3.
Dramatic.
It's more dramatic, yeah.
I mean, he's practiced the step back a lot. I know that's one of the in particular, one of the shots that he's worked on a ton through his career. And that's one of those shots that he wouldn't have made as a freshman. That's not a shot that he had practiced coming in. He was more of a set shooter as a three-point shooter. And those are, when you get 4-year guys, you see the development. And that's one of the things that developed in his game was his ability to take someone off the dribble and hit a shot like that. So great shot for him. Great for USC. Great environment, like I said yesterday. And I think I talked about this at the end of instant analysis, if you want to hear a little bit more about it, but I think it was great for the football team because they had all the players there, the coaches there, but also they had a ton of recruits there.
Yeah.
And those recruits,
good environment and everything.
Yeah.
and those recruits got to see, maybe they went to the Coliseum last year and the fans just really don't get behind USC. No, they saw when USC is winning, how the fans will get behind a team, and I think that's a positive thing for them. So with as many recruits as they had in, I think to bring it back to football was a positive for the football team as well. That there was a dramatic game, and then also the USC won.
Yeah. Jeff on Periscope, real quick, a little snarky. Ask Andy Enfield if they practice free throws as much as Clay Helton practices tackling.
So I got asked this at the basketball game when I was talking.
Okay.
I mean, the baseball game when I was talking today too, and I actually looked up last night. Like 60%, you make 6%, no one bitches and complains about your free throw shooting. They should make some more. So I looked up and saw how many times that they've, made, and like 12 of the last 15 games, they made over 60%. It's not an ideal number. In some of those games, they've made 80, 90%. But the problem is the games when they don't make their free throws, they really don't make their free throws. They're like 8 for 18 in a game against Utah, I believe it was.
That's
bad. The 5 of 12 yesterday. They only had 2 free throws in the first half, so that was the second half. There were 3 of 10, and guys that and Andy Enfield's response was, we got our 2 best free throw shooters on the line in Jonah Matthews and Yeka Okongwu, and he said in all his time watching him as a high school player, said he never missed a clutch free throw.
Yep.
And he's like, as a coach, what you do is you try to put your best free throw shooters on the free throw line.
Because I believe Big O was 78% from the line, and Jonah was 75% from the line, which is, what can you do there?
Yeah, you put them in the right spot. The players have to execute.
Yeah, and I think it just gets, it gets blown up when you miss your free throws, and especially it's a close game. But people don't really pay attention to that. 12 of the 15, they are making their free throws, a significant amount. So I think it just stood out a little bit more, and especially with it being a close game. If they were up by 20, people are like, oh, they should make some more free throws. Not, oh my God, that guy made a free throw.
Just like that. Ryan, did that satisfy your?
Yeah, that's good. We got the.
It's just so weird to say.
Well, we wanted to get
No, I know. I just you were pushing.
I don't want to talk about the basketball team when they're under 500 and stuff, and you're like, oh, they're going to be good. They start off good, have a little bit of a lull. They've come back and they're looking better now, and they can make a run in the Pac-12 tournament. We'll talk about them more.
Look at
But
that.
I don't want to talk about tournament teams. I'm not talking about NIT stuff or whatever. That doesn't,
Yeah.
I'd rather talk about spring football. Yeah.
Makes sense. Let's jump back into questions. Jasper Smith says, which player who didn't play last season will make the biggest impact on the field in 2020?
Didn't we do that one?
We answered that one.
Oh, did we? When did we do that?
Oh, we did it
When you asked me earlier.
Oh, sorry. I was dealing with other issues.
That's okay, Keely.
But I will answer. I think Caleb Tremblay. I don't know what you guys said.
Oh, we didn't say that. Yeah, no.
Caleb Tremblay, that's
We
my
didn't mention him.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting call, but also his position coach talked about him several times.
Right.
That's why I'm making that call.
And so that tells you something when you have a new coach come in and he's singling out someone who didn't play a ton the previous season as someone who's been a leader of the group, who's working really hard, those type things. New coach, might be new playing time.
Mm-hmm. And it's his last year of eligibility, so sometimes that's the switch that guys need to kind of really lock in. So we shall see.
Yes.
Randy says, will Slovis be 100% for spring practice?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like from what Graham Harrell said.
I hadn't really even crossed my mind, the injury he sustained in the Holiday Bowl. I just kind of assumed he'd be back. We didn't really think it was that serious, with the way that USC worded their tweet or whatever when they announced that he was, was okay. Yeah. But Graham Harrell said, we're going to have to monitor it. We're going to be kind of sounded like they were going to be a little bit cautious with it. So we'll see. I think they always monitor quarterbacks' throws. It's the same thing with a pitcher. You just don't want them to overuse their arm, and just have a dead arm or something going into a scrimmage when you want to really see them. So they always monitor them, but I think it sounds like it's going to be a little bit closer, and there's a little concern there.
Mm-hmm. XX on YouTube says, you look at some of the other blue blood programs like OSU, Nebraska, and Notre Dame that is heavy on tradition yet have alternate unis. Should USC follow that trend and have alternate uniforms?
I'm not a big alternate uniform guy, but
really,
no,
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that the fans, there would be a lot of outrage. There'd be some fans that like it, but there's enough fans that would upset that it's hard to kind of change and go there, I would think.
And if USC had never changed their uniform, I would agree. However, they've changed it like 8 times.
But they're like always subtle kind of things. Sometimes they're big, like with the stripes but they go back. It's just not like coming out with like green jerseys like Notre Dame would do. Like it just doesn't seem like something USC would entertain. They made like the helmets like some weird color one, like with
The shiny.
the chrome. Yeah, those didn't. Those I think they looked okay in the road uniforms, but not the.
It didn't match the Cardinals.
Yeah, the home uniforms didn't look good. I don't know. I think I might trust this administration to do something like that more than I would trust the other ones that just might do something willy-nilly. Like, I think these guys would put a little bit more thought into it.
Yeah, the previous one was just Sark was like, we got to get an alternate.
Yeah.
That was basically.
Just they put something out there that didn't really look good. So.
Yeah. We've reached the top of the hour, so I'm going to go more into rapid fire, but that's more for you answerers. Coley says, is St. Brown the Trojans' #1 go-to receiver this season?
I think it's still Tyler Vaughn's. Right?
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, St. Brown has Vaughn's can be more consistent at times, but Brown will have like the big games too. I'm curious to see what it is. If he's going to play more outside, does he become the #1 guy? Certainly he's got the potential, but it might be like a senior like Vaughn's, just like Pittman did last year.
Mm-hmm. Randy says, I think Nealon would be a better fit at guard than Dedich, but couldn't he help with line calls from the guard position?
That's an interesting thing. Like I said, that I've said this on one of these shows. I don't know which one, but that they really like Nealon making the calls, and that's kind of been it sounded like that's the difference maker in them deciding that, because I've said the same thing that the body types, Justin Dedich has more of a center body type than Brett Nealon has more of a guard body type than Justin Dedich does. Mm-hmm. So I would think ideally, and because you usually work a V for an offensive line as far as height, and Justin Dedich is a shorter guy, that you would want him as the center. Both of them have done perfectly fine with the snaps and everything, so that's not an issue. And Justin Dedich did step in there, so maybe they changed their mind a little bit based off of what they saw from Dedich in those last couple of games when Nealon was hurt. We don't know for sure, but it has sounded like Justin Dedich will be the guard. And I think did someone mention that as well during the presser that he might be a guard there?
I don't remember.
It wasn't mentioned in the presser, but it was mentioned in the war room.
Yeah, we had some war room stuff there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make sure you check it out, the site.
Yeah, and people have questions about Chris Claiborne. War room.
Yeah.
Ruben on YouTube says, can you give us comparison between Slovis and Daniels as far as leadership, mobility, grasp of the offense, etc.?
I mean, they're both pretty quiet guys. I think JT Daniels was a little bit more mobile than we were giving him credit for.
Shocking
and I do not agree with your assessment of Keaton Slovis.
Yeah.
He's quiet to outsiders.
He's a football-loving guy. He gets super excited about football.
Yeah, there's like maybe in like off the field setting, sure, but I think on the field he's a little bit more fiery.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when we talk to him, it's not like it. There's certain quarterbacks that you would talk to, and there's just a lot of energy there, and he's very kind of humble. Now, maybe this sophomore year he's going to be a little bit more.
Which recent quarterback has had a lot of energy?
Sam Darnold, man, he was just jumping on table. No, he was not. I'm just kidding.
I was like, Ryan.
No, they have and I think some of that is
Matt Barkley. Is that probably the last guy?
I would think probably Barkley was.
Because Cody Kessler was pretty flatline. Sam was quiet as could be.
Yeah.
JT, you can barely hear when he's talking.
Oh my goodness, it's so hard in scrums.
It's pretty tough.
So I mean, the biggest difference there is that Keaton, during games, we've seen him going up and slapping guys on the shoulder pads and doing things like that. We've heard from the offensive lineman that he was, trying to fire people up during the Stanford game, his first start. Haven't necessarily heard that from people about JT Daniels. They haven't said anything negative about his leadership style either. He has to be more vocal. And when you talk to him, both of the guys, you can tell they have football minds. They like to, they're guys that like the X's and O's. They like to break down things.
Tinker a little,
they, probably doodling plays and stuff.
Yes.
Doodling plays.
Whereas some people are just athletes or are really good at stuff, but they don't have the same interest in it. Like there's a lot of people that are professional athletes that don't really care that much about the game.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know that as viewers or not, but there's a lot of people that they're just really good at something, so they do it rather than really loving it all the time.
They might not be able to explain to you what they couldn't coach it or whatever. They just can do it naturally. Where if JT Daniels stopped playing football, he could probably coach football tomorrow.
And I think that the mobility portion of it, both of them, neither one of them is mobile. Both of them, though, showed some really good promise with pocket mobility.
Yeah.
And Keaton Slovis, now Graham Harrell got onto him. Don't try to do too much a little bit, and he got himself hit more than he needed to by trying to do too much and keep plays alive a little longer than probably he should. So he's got to learn when to throw it away a little bit more. But JT Daniels, that was the thing that impressed me probably the most about him last fall, was the advancement of his pocket mobility and moving around and buying a little bit extra time. You don't have to be able to run, but you got to be able to move in the pocket, Tom Brady style. I mean, Tom Brady is the ultimate guy to look at because he can't run with the flip, but he moves around the pocket and doesn't take those big hits, which is why his career has been so long.
Yeah.
Let's go to a question from Jasper Smith, who says, has the sentiment of season ticket holders gotten any better with the changes? There were a lot of empty seats last season.
It's a good question. We're not sure yet. I mean, they're trying. The new administration is definitely trying to do. There's been outreach things where they have booster events, and I know there's been individual people that have changed their minds and said, hey, I'm going to go back in, but we still see a lot of people on the boards saying, not another penny. There's still some of that people. How many of those people are there? How many people have switched and gone from I'm not doing season tickets to coming back? It's just really hard to say. And the issue is USC starts with Alabama, and then you got New Mexico is the first home game. That first home game, unless USC goes out and beats Alabama or maybe keeps it really close, it's just going to be hard to picture being a whole lot of people there. So it's really important to have a good showing against Alabama, and I think you can get some momentum, for the season ticket holders and stuff. But, short of that, there's just so many people that are like, I don't buy it. And even if the team's a lot better, but Alabama's just really freaking good and just beats your butt, it's going to be hard for people. Yeah. So then it's going to be now you got to build momentum up during the season, and it's not the early, loaded schedule like it was last year. USC had an opportunity to win those people back after going 5-7. But they came out of the gate, went 3-3. So this one, what if you come out of the gate 5-1, but the loss is a bad loss to Alabama? It's just not the same thing. So it's hard to say at this point. We'll see. But USC has an opportunity if they can go out and beat Alabama. I think they can get a lot of people in the Coliseum. But if they don't, then you're in danger of having pretty poor attendance again.
Mm-hmm. Greg Miller on YouTube says, "What month is when USC decides the decision on Reggie Bush?"
I think it's June. I believe.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I believe it's June. I don't know. It seems like they're going to try to do something. This is an administration that tries to pick the low-hanging fruit because there's a lot of it left. So many bad decisions by the last couple athletic directors. This is one, if you can reverse it. There's some people that don't like Reggie Bush as USC fans, but most people do. Players do. It could help recruiting. Who knows? You get the Heisman back. Whatever. There's some opportunities there. So I think they'll try to do something, whatever they can, wrestle and get done.
Mm-hmm. We have a question on YouTube from Randy who says, I see Gerard Martinez put in a couple new crystal balls. How long do you think before we see some commits?
I actually don't think it's going to be that long. I think that there's a couple guys that possibly could pop before too long. Just kind of feeling the vibe of what I've read from some of the recruits. We had a similar question. Tito asked, how was the vibe from recruits this weekend? I haven't talked to anyone today, since the game was yesterday. I haven't talked to anyone myself, so don't really know exactly. But it just looking at the players and seeing the recruits and stuff and seeing they were really enjoying it. They got a halftime, concert performed. They got to go down with the football team and basically be front row, I guess you would say, on the court with reason. So I think that the vibe was good for them. I think that there were a lot of guys that seemed to be having a good time at least.
Yeah, Chris Trevino, I think, put in his story that he thought a few commits would pop during the spring, and it's a much better recruiting staff, so they're going to do a better job recruiting. So I would expect better news on the recruiting front just because of the staff alone.
We have a question from Daryl on Facebook who says, how deep is our safety position?
Thin.
Mm-hmm.
Not very deep.
3 guys right now, technically at the spots. When you have your 2 starters, Isaiah Polmau and Talanoa Hufanga, and then Britton Allen's really the only other guy that's technically a safety. Guys like Jaden Williams could play it. Chase Williams could play it. You could, depending on what they do with the nickel, you could see a guy like Greg Johnson potentially go back there. It just depends on what they want to do there. Dorian Hewitt has been moved to cornerback, but he could go back there. So there are options. It's not like it's a dire situation there. There are some options, but listed right now, there's only 3 guys.
Yeah, C.J. Pollard transferred out, so that would be the missing one.
Ryan, this is something that Chuck and I debated.
Sure.
Those two starters, Isaiah Pulamau and Talanoa Hufanga, have been injury prone, especially Talanoa Hufanga in spring. How much do you, if at all, limit those guys or hold them back from what they can do, or do you just put them out there full force, depth chart without abandon?
I just don't think you can practice scared like that and worry about it. I just don't feel you can. And that because, especially the last few years, what USC has practiced scared. They've practiced like they're just coming off the sanctions, and even though it's been years. So I think you got a new, Craig Nyver, just talking to him, doesn't seem like he's going to be a guy that's like keeps people in reserve. Like he wants to go out there and see what they're doing. He has a new position coach. It's not very deep. Maybe like Shotgun said, they bring someone over. My guess would be he's not going to be someone that's like, I know what those guys can do. Let's just let other guys walk-ons play this spring. I just don't see that happening.
And I think you also, as a new staff, they need to be able to see, the guys in action so they know, okay, can I call this blitz, or can I call this play where they're, single high, and be able to see what their skill set is in person rather than just watching the tape of the previous years to better understand and better be able to call plays in the future.
Yeah. We got Mario again. What happened to Bernard Shermer? SC once nasty offensive lineman, thought he was a mean dude. Can he play?
He's someone who's kind of just been lost in that shuffle.
Yeah, he's still on the roster. He's still with the program, but he's a guy that has not played at all. He played a couple of snaps and special teams and stuff, but there were times when he was away from the program last year. So it's almost like he's a Solomon Tulialapupu, where you got to see him out there practicing and actually doing something before you can consider him for to be a guy that you can count on at all.
Racer X says, do you guys believe the USC's defense will be better on the edge due to new coaches?
I kind of think so. I mean, there was an issue last year. I think just it's sort of like, when you just get something, it's something new. And I think, having Todd Orlando come in, wherever he's gone, when it's something new coming in, it just seems to do well. USC, it was pretty stale on defense. I think they needed to get rejuvenated. I think the linebackers are going to play a lot better. It seemed like a lost position last year. I think you're going to get some better edge play. We'll see what guys like Drake Jackson can do. But yeah, I expect it to be better.
XX on YouTube says, should Harrell run the ball more despite being a believer in the air raid? USC has good backs that need to be used. Shotgun, you did the math on the split before injuries and whatnot.
Yeah, they were running for over 150 yards. I think it was 156, 158, and they were running for 5.5 yards per carry before they got all the injuries to their starters. And then that number went down. It was like 4.6 and 100 yards per game. So do they need to run more? There are times when they should probably. But as long as they run effectively, you don't have to run 30 times a game. So you can just kind of pick and choose based on what the defense is giving you, which is how you should call a game.
Yeah.
Now, they were forced into doing certain things when they had all the injuries, and that kind of skewed the numbers as far as attempts and stuff, because how many carries are you really going to give Amon-Ra St. Brown in a game?
Yeah.
He was a good running back, actually, but his body type is not ideal to be taking 15 hits a game that way that you have a running back. So I think that they did what they could. Graham Harrell wants to run the ball, as you saw the numbers before the injuries. He tries to run the ball. He wants to be closer to balance, much closer to balance than Mike Leach. It's not the same Mike Leach air raid. Each air raid offense is it should be called Graham Harrell's version of the air raid offense, or whoever else, because they each take their own kind of path with it. It's not just all of them are like, oh, well, we got to throw the ball 80 times a game.
One of the things, too, when we talk about getting better from year one to year two, year one, it was a whole new offense. You have your quarterback go down in the very first game. You've had all your running backs hurt at times during the season. There was a lot of weird stuff that kind of happened, and I felt there were some bumps and bruises, but I felt they navigated pretty well. I think this year they'd be better suited to deal with, losing your starting quarterback or losing all your running backs. It just seems like now that everyone knows what they're doing, that last year it seemed like they were just kind of driving along, avoiding obstacles all season, and still putting up some big numbers. So I expect them to be better this season, and I think they will run the ball more.
Racer X says, who has the better arm between JT and Slovis?
What do you think?
I saw that question.
I don't know.
Neither one of them stands out to me as being a plus arm. So
I might give like Slovis like the strength, like a little edge, and maybe JT the accuracy a little. But I mean, you could argue either way for that. But that would be my guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's hard to say.
I wouldn't put either of them on with a 99 mile an
It's
hour
not like one
fastball.
is like, oh my God, this guy's so much better.
Yeah,
You know?
I need to see both of them in practice together again and compare. Mark says, Keely, did you take down instant analysis from the coaches' pressers? I did not. It's really weird. YouTube's being weird. It's also a 30-minute instant, so I don't know if that freaked it out. But if you go to the instant analysis playlist, it's in there, and also in the content item on the site, it is also there. So that's how you can find it. Sink K says, Reggie's never apologized or shown any remorse, has he? ?
I don't think he's like apologized. I think he's showed. I mean, he's talked about things openly and things that But yeah, if you want like Reggie Bush to come up and like apologize for whatever, I don't know. I don't think he's done that specifically, but there's some people, USC fans, are like that. I think most of them are just like, it's Reggie, we just want him back.
Yeah. Mark has another question. He says, could you see Trevor Trout move to the O-line like Liam Jimmons did? He has a big body, but maybe too limited athletically for a D lineman position.
I haven't heard anyone talk about that.
I don't know that he played offensive line in high school.
I don't think he did.
So usually, if you're going to make that switch, usually guys have a background of having done it before. I don't know that he has. So I think it's a make or break year for Trevor Trout this year, actually. He got passed over by Dejon Bitton last year. He's got new staff in. He needs to show something this year that he can be ready to take over one of those spots when those old guys leave.
Mark also asked, Shotgun, what are USC basketball's chances of landing 5-star Zaire Williams?
I haven't seen Zaire Williams, attend any games. But last time I talked to him was, I believe, a month ago, before their postseason run with Sierra Canyon, where LeBron and Drake were at the game yesterday.
Casual.
But the last time I talked to him, USC is still in the mix, still considering him. He likes the fact that they're the hometown school, and what they've done with the team. I haven't talked to him since then, and they weren't even playing that great when I did talk to him. So maybe the fact that they're playing a little bit better right now, that usually helps with decisions. People don't like to look at teams and be like, oh, they're playing terrible. I'll commit there.
Yeah, they're playing better now. So
especially for a one-and-done type of player.
Sure. Tommy on Facebook says, my concern is about our offensive line. Do you feel that it is or will be our weak link this season? If so, will our success lie upon that position group?
I mean, I think they have the potential to be pretty good, but we just don't know. I mean, when you're trying to replace the left tackle, both tackles, I think they're going to feel pretty comfortable with like the top 5 or 6 guys. It's just how are they going to? How's Elijah Vera Tucker going to play at left tackle if that's where he ends up? If Justin Dedich plays left guard, whatever it is, I think they like those players, but make sure that they can play those positions. But that's what you got to watch. I think you feel good about everything else on the offense. You're just not sure about the O-line.
I got big questions still.
Big questions? All right.
Yeah.
There's no true left tackle, and that is scary with the fact that both of your quarterbacks have been injured in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue they were injured with a true left tackle. So
that is fair. I mean,
but if you're moving your best interior guy out to the outside, I think that makes you weak. And the plays where the quarterbacks get hurt a lot of times are ones where there's blitzes up the middle, you don't pick it up type of thing. At least that's what happened for a couple of those injuries when players were hurt last year.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the things we're going to watch a lot in the spring football because you love the receivers. I mean, there's like a super deep group of tight ends if they want to use that position more. 3 seniors. You got all your running backs back. You got Slovis, who 72% completion. Blah blah blah. Is the offensive line going to protect them? Are they going to be able to open holes for the running back? So that's what we'll be watching more. I think they have some potential there, but we just don't know.
Yeah, I think the team goes as far as the offensive line this year. I think the defense will be better with Todd Orlando. It doesn't have to be great, but you can jump into the top 40 defensively, kind of what the offense did last year. Making a big jump in the significant stats that you really look at. Then I think if the offensive line holds up, then the team can be really good. Yeah. They got a lot of talent still on the roster. They just got to be able to play a little bit better defense and block up front. Those are, I mean, it's almost like that's what you say about any football team. Hey, can they block up front, and can you block for running, and can you stop the other team from running?
Yeah. Real quick, Mario on Periscope, is there a place in this defense for Connor Murphy to make an impact?
That's a question I had as well.
Big redhead. Let's see what we got.
And for him, it's great because there's a new staff, so new chance to impress somebody and get out there. I think that's a question that I have that I'll be focusing on is what exactly they're trying to do up front. Are they trying to get all three of those older defensive tackles on the field, Marlon Tuipulotu, Jay Tufele, and Brandon Keely together?
If so, that's probably not good for Connor Murphy.
Yeah, and are they trying to use true defensive ends? Hand in the ground. Are they trying to use outside linebackers in more of that style of the Predator, with outside rushers? What are they trying to do with that edge position? I think is a big question mark I still have.
Agreed.
We should. You want to wrap it up? Or
Yeah,
we
we have a couple more. XX on YouTube says, "Is Marquise Stepp a quiet Heisman candidate?" And I'm going to throw this one to Mr. Shotgun Spratling, who predicted a couple years ago that Stephen Carr would win a Heisman his junior year.
I did not say he would win a Heisman. I say he would be a Heisman finalist.
No,
yes, I did.
We'll play the tapes, but that's fine. Continue.
I said he would be a Heisman finalist by his junior year. And that was
He was not
pre-back
close to
injury.
it. Yeah.
Pre-back injury. I said it before his freshman year. And also, I thought that they would throw the ball to him more like they did early in his season.
We don't want to hear your excuses. We want to hear your next prediction.
Anyway, no, I do not think Marquise Stepp.
Even if he has a huge year, when you're talking about an air raid type of offense, like Keaton Slovis is going to have huge numbers. I don't see Marquise Stepp, who's going to be sharing carries with a couple other guys, having numbers that are going to be so amazing that they would eclipse even a guy on his own team. So,
exactly.
No.
In-N-Out or Herdburger, Coley asks. In-N-Out, I've never had Herdburger.
Oh, I mean, they're very different. Like, it's more of a restaurant kind of burger, but the Herdburgers are really good, and I love the In-N-Out burgers too. So we'll probably do an event there. We got to plan that.
Ooh, look at that.
Yeah, Colin said we could do an event there. So
Nice.
Right, then we have to bring the coffee. Once we got the coffee maker, he said we could do an event.
Really? Well, shouts to who sent us that again?
Was it Peter?
Bay Area Trojan, right?
But maybe it was. Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry. We appreciate the coffee maker though.
No, Scott. Maybe it was Scott. I don't remember.
Let's jump into our live callers. First up is Jesse. Hello, you're live on Tunnel Vision.
How you doing? My name's Jesse. I'm up here in Seattle, Washington. You guys kind of already answered my question. It was a reference to Clay Helton. But the only thing I will say is a couple things I want to say is, that being said, that you guys think he's just being kept away from it because people are mad at him. That just further shows the fact that he's just a afterthought. That these guys, if they win, it would be because of the assistants. So what's the point? My second thing is, for all these boneheads that keep calling you guys about the uniform, do you guys even know who Matt Leinart, Carson Palmer, Marcus Allen, all these guys were, what number they were, what name to know who they were? That included shotgun? No, we don't need them. What about number 5? We know who number 5 is, right? Can you say his name? And one more thing, go basketball. I know Brian hates it, but I love you guys. The show is great. Take care, and you guys are doing a good thing. Thanks.
Thanks, Jesse, and thanks for waiting for so long.
Thanks, Jesse.
Ryan, do you want to clear the air about your basketball?
No,
I made it the brand.
Yeah, it's fun to say, when Shotgun would come into the season with all, they would win the offseason in basketball. They would always be like these amazing things. Oh, they got this recruiting classes, and then they would be under 500 and miss a tournament. We're not talking about that. That doesn't.
The seniors are currently the winningest players in USC history. They set the school record on Saturday.
Did they go under 500 in the last?
Last year.
Okay, well,
one year.
Okay, well,
one out of the last year, 7.
Last year they were under 500, and you were hyping them up.
Fight.
Yeah, so
I didn't hype them up last year.
Oh my God, you want to talk about basketball? They'd be amazing and all that stuff. And then they were under 500.
This year they would be.
Yeah, they're short of amazing, but they're doing a lot better, so that's good. We'll talk about it when they're good. I'm not going to talk about it when they're going to be under 500. And football is always going to trump basketball. We used to put up basketball stories on the front page, and we'd get complaints. People are like, I want to talk about football. So we're at USCfootball.com. We're going to focus on football, but we're not going to ignore basketball. We want and Shotgun likes covering it. So as long as they're good, I don't mind when he's covering it. If they're bad, we're not talking about it. So that's just the way I roll.
I was standing on a basketball court with a basketball player with my intro as for USCfootball.com. And I was like, this is just odd. This is weird, but we try.
That's the world we live in.
It is indeed. Mark on YouTube wanted to know what we actually played in high school since we got our heights and weights out there. What sports did we play?
Oh, I grew up playing baseball, and then I played mostly volleyball in high school. I played some basketball, and baseball was kind of my sport since I was a little kid. But I didn't really continue after 9th grade or whatever. But volleyball is the one I played the most. I just kind of fell in love with it. When I moved out here, I play it all the time.
The best.
I played baseball, basketball, football.
Yeah.
I played volleyball since 4th grade, and I played tackle football for a year. So, ta-da. There
We got to
you
get
go.
that picture out.
No, we're teaming that picture away. Shotgun, did I miss any questions, or shall we wrap this puppy up?
We do.
There were a couple.
One quick one, G. Rich on Periscope. Is Drake London getting playing time on the court?
He has not had any playing time. He's actually been affected by the flu bug a couple of times.
Okay.
He's actually missed being at games. They had the bad flu bug that went through the team on the mountain road trip. Then when they went to Colorado and Utah, and he was not around the team at that point. He had been, and early in the season he didn't. So unfortunately for him, because of that, he hasn't even gotten a chance to really get into any games except for like 1 or 2 blowouts. So he's not getting much playing time there. And he's a guy that if he focused fully on basketball, I think I said this before he got on campus. I think he's a pro in whichever sport he would focus on, because he's. As a basketball player, he's super long. He's a really good defender. He reminds me, I won't say but he reminds me of DeAnthony Melton, where he does a lot of different things on the court, and he's really long, so it makes him a really good defender. And on the football field, he uses that athleticism, that ability to go up and get the rebound, go up and get the ball over the middle, and he's tough. He brings the football toughness to the basketball court. That's why he's a tough defender on the basketball court. Because he can take those hits over the middle, like he had to do throughout the season as that inside receiver. So,
we have a couple more questions. Boss man, are we allowing them?
Yeah, do a couple quick ones.
Sean on
Get out of
Facebook
that.
says the air raid seems prone to interception. Will and can USC run and open up the passing game against Alabama? Will Sark's unfamiliarity with the new SC staff help USC versus Kiffin, et cetera, et cetera?
Versus Kiffin?
I mean, the air raid is
Kiffin hires, sorry.
susceptible to the interception, but the triple option is susceptible to the fumble.
Fumble, yeah.
I mean, that's just going to happen. It's part of football. If you throw the ball a lot, then they can catch it. If you run it all the time, then they can knock it out and fall on.
Unless you're Joe Burrow, who had 60 touchdowns and 6 picks, which is absolutely insane. But last year, Slovis had 30 touchdowns and 9 picks. I think, he can get more touchdowns than that, and he can throw less interceptions than that. So you can't have these 3 interception games. Those were bad.
Yeah, those were killers, and those were defenses against that they did not have experience really against. So I think the fact that those quarterbacks now have experience definitely helps them going forward.
Mm-hmm. Shotgun, you said I missed questions?
Well, you didn't answer the part from Mark that asked about how was the Women of Troy documentary.
There's a reason why I didn't answer that part.
Is it a must-watch this week? I'm curious myself. I want to know.
Did you hear what happened, Shotgun?
I did not.
We didn't get to watch it.
Yeah, we didn't get into the premiere because the boss man was late.
I was a little late, and they wouldn't let us into the theater. So
they were at capacity. And
so we got to go to the post. We got to talk with all the players and everybody, and Mike Bone and everyone that was there. It was great. Mm-hmm. But we didn't get to watch so we did the after party. We just didn't do the actual showing.
Very, very Ryan of you.
Right? I know.
After party's important.
Avoid actual basketball discussion or filming.
The problem, though, is that at the after party, everyone was like, that was amazing. What'd you think? And each time we had to be like, well, Ryan is...
And it's funny. It's not just something we could go back and watch. So they're talking about the Women of Troy. It's a documentary on HBO coming out March 10th. About the women winning the national championship in '83 and '84. Cheryl Miller was on that team. A lot of stars. But they were saying it was so fun to be in the room with the women from that team watching it. So this was a unique experience we didn't get to partake in, unfortunately.
Yeah, I definitely would have went to that, but I had baseball obligations. So, but it seemed really fascinating. And talking with a couple people, they said that there's a storyline about the differences in Cheryl Miller and Cynthia Cooper, because Cynthia Cooper was kind of an end of the bench player and rose to prominence, starting working her way at USC and became the first WNBA MVP, the first 2 seasons of the WNBA. Whereas Cheryl Miller, she's probably the greatest women's basketball player ever still. And unfortunately for her, she had knee injuries, or else she was so good she could play with guys. Like, she probably could have played professionally against men just because of how good she was. But knee injuries derailed her career, and she never got to be the star that Cynthia Cooper later became. So it's kind of their paths went different directions, but they were both on that team, as well as the McGee twins, who I think are at least Pam is a Hall of Famer. I think that both of them are. So a lot of talent, like you said, on that team. So it should be really good. From what I've heard, like you guys said, that everyone thought it was good.
Everyone thought it was really good.
And
Apparently it was a once in a lifetime experience too to watch it with the team because they were very chatty and like would be like making comments and all that, and we missed it.
I forget one of the other women. She became the first like African American pilot for Unite. You know,
I've seen her on the
I
Pac-12.
forget. We met her, talked to her. I forget her name. I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, she was really cool though.
Yeah,
the Pac-12 has done commercial, like one of the Pac-12 commercials includes that. But I wish I would have been able to see that because Cynthia Cooper is hilarious. Having covered her when she was the women's coach at USC, I got to know her a little bit, and she is hilarious. And just assuming and having seen, Pam McGee is JaVale McGee's mother. So if you've seen, she's come to USC games. He's come with her a couple times. Like she is she seems like she's hilarious as well. So that whole group, it seems like they were really good on the court, but also had a lot of fun. So I would say the documentary is probably going to be really good, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Shoddy?
There were a couple real quick ones that I can answer. Is the air raid still the upcoming offensive strategy? Yes. I don't know why that would have changed.
No, they recruited 4 fullbacks. So they're going to go. Like, no. Like, what? Yes, I don't. It's the only thing that worked last year. Like
hey, we got to be nice. Some people have some questions.
Any chance Clayton Bradley returns to the transfer portal? Haven't heard much on his end. I don't think that'll happen at all. And Mark had a comment more than a question, but he said, watch Kyle Sturdivant on the final shot of Jonah Matthews, so I'm going to go back and watch that. But he knew it was going in before anyone and was already celebrating when Jonah released the ball. Really nice moment for Kyle with all he's been through recently. Did get to speak to Kyle last week. I'll have a story this week on him. Obviously, it's been a really tough time. His father passed away, but he wanted to be back with the team because of, it's his second family. And he said they've been there for him, throughout the season and throughout everything. So, and someone like Onyeka Okongwu, who's actually went through, his brother died when he was in high school. So someone that you can lean on and, how'd you get through this type of thing? So really good for him to be back with the team, I think, and helping out. And he didn't play on Saturday, but, he could potentially play this week now that he's getting back in, game shape and stuff, and that'll give him an extra point guard. So on the court should help him as well, but good for him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up. Any final thoughts before we do?
No, thanks. Next week we'll be able to tell you what we saw from 3 spring football practices. So that'll be awesome.
We shall see. So stay tuned. We'll be back next Sunday. That's going to wrap it up. That's Shotgun. That's Ryan. I'm Keely. We'll see y'all next week.
See ya.
Bye.